Hello and welcome to this year's Flat 5 to follow from myself, Rich, at DigiTips. Dawn has already done her 5 to follow and yeah, she roped me into doing mine. I wasn't actually going to do one this year and just leave it to her, the Irish expert. However, I thought, yeah, why not? Give it a shot and see if there's any horses I can pick out that might, run well this year. We're going to start with a horse that we all know. It's a pretty obvious one. When I did the jumps one, I picked out Soy as my obvious horse. Unfortunately, after Chase debut, he then went down with an injury, which put his season to bed. And my first selection on the flat, hopefully that doesn't happen with, and that's Rosalian. Now, this horse did get injured last year. And that put pay to the second half of his campaign. I was really looking forward to seeing him at Glorious Goodwood in the Sussex. However, he did win 3 Group 1s last year as a 3-year-old and was runner-up in the English 2000 Guineas as well. Now, I just can't wait to see this guy's turn of foot again. He is that type of, push button go type of horse. And he reminds me a lot of Kingman, who was trained also by Hannon, but Hannon Senior back in the day. I think the Lockinge is his starting point, and then moving on probably to Royal Ascot and beyond. And I'm looking forward to him later on in the season taking on the 3-year-olds as well, and to see him probably stamp his authority as the best miler in town. I think maybe we might see him at the Breeders' Cup to finish off the season as well, and maybe it's a retirement party at Del Mar. Now, speaking of the Breeders' Cup, that brings me on to my second horse, who was 4th at the Breeders' Cup last year in the juvenile, and that is Big Mojo. Now, he is following the blueprint of Big Evs, who is by the same connections. He actually broke his maiden tag last year in a group race, which is unusual, and then he has come out and won on his reappearance at Ascot. A really taking performance, that first time after a wind-up, so I expect even more improvement next time. I think that's likely to be in the Temple Stakes. After that, I'd like to see him go for the King Charles III. However, the Commonwealth Cup might be the race he ends up in. You'll be seeing him take part in all the big sprints this season, and hopefully he can get a couple on the board. My third pick is an unbeaten 3-year-old colt by the name of Cosmic Year. Now, this horse is very, very exciting, and I think will turn into a Group 1 performer. We know Juddmonte have all angles covered and have a plethora of talent in this division. It remains to be seen where he goes. He does have an entry in the Irish 1000 Guineas, so hopefully that's his next port of call, and then who knows where he's going to end up. But I think it will be all top level mile races if Juddmonte don't pick and choose, and yeah, we'll see him running very, very well in Group 1 at Group 1 level. And it's not out of the question that this lad is actually the best of all of them. Now, that's saying something because Field of Gold is pretty good himself, and I know Dawn has picked up Detain, who runs tomorrow in the French 2000 Guineas. But yeah, I think this guy is pretty special. Now, I'm recording this on a lovely Saturday afternoon after we've had Ascot and Lingfield, and their Derby trial was one of the races today. Now, my next horse to follow is Stay True, who was actually second in that race. I think he probably could have won the race. You can't see me winking behind my sunglasses, but I think Richard Kingscote might be angling for some more rides at Ballydoyle with the way he tenderly handled Stay True in the latter stages, and Puppet Master came out on top. Now, I think that's probably the best outcome, because maybe we'd have had to see Stay True in a Derby next. I don't want him to go there. I think the Queen's Vase is absolutely tailor-made for this horse. He follows the blueprint of Illinois last year, who finished second in the Derby trial himself, and then went on and won the Queen's Vase pretty impressively at Ascot, and then went on and finished second in the St. Leger. Now, Stay True is part of the last crop of Galileos that are out this season. And I think he's another that has been produced that's above average. He's going to be a good middle distance to staying type horse this season, and who knows, could turn into a Gold Cup contender in the future. Now, my final selection is a French horse, and that is Soy. Now, he was 3rd in the French Derby last year, and I was on track to see him. He was really nice in the parade ring, and then he was 4th in the Arc itself. Now, a lot of people fancied him to win the Arc. I think he ended up going off favourite. He won the Prix Gannet on his return. Now, there were a lot of people saying that the step back in trip wouldn't suit, and I think, yes, he is a 1.5 mile horse, but I was convinced that day, with the way that French races are run, that he could go out, not quite make the pace, but be right up there and kick early enough and stay. And he did that impressively. Now, I've got a soft spot for this son of See the Stars, and he's going to be contesting all the middle distance big races in Europe this season. And he's probably going to go close in the Arc itself at Longchamp in October. Now, I have a feeling that Dawn will be doing this as well. I know she's not going to stick to the 5, and I am going to stick to the 5, but there are 2 horses that I just want to give a shout to that I think have maybe had setbacks because they have no entries. Now, Dreamy is the first of those. I fell in love with this horse at Glorious Goodwood last year. I walked her in after her win, and as soon as that race finished, my head went Oaks filly. Now, she was entered at Chester in the race that Minnie Hawk went on and won, who is now fancied for the Oaks, and we actually haven't seen any entries for Dreamy just yet. Maybe she's had a little bit of a setback, or they're just waiting and biding their time to get her started this season. Now, she's definitely one for an autumn campaign if she isn't seen sooner, and she'll be one that is on my radar. As I've given a shout out to a filly, I may as well give a shout out to a colt, and that is Angelo Buenote. He actually made his debut in the Coventry. Now, that's unusual because that is a group race at Royal Ascot. I think the horse is really well thought of. I don't know what's happened to the horse. He hasn't been seen since the Royal Lodge. And again, maybe he's had a little bit of a setback, or they're waiting and biding their time until he comes to hand. He was 3rd in that Royal Lodge behind Wimbledon Hawkeye. And I'm excited to see him when he does return. He's a big animal. He takes some getting going, and he'll be one that will probably run at middle distances this season if we see him. That is all from me. Hopefully we get some winners for the 5 to follow from myself and for Dawn. The link is in the description if you want to go and check out hers. We are very, very close now to releasing our new tier system at DigiTips. Now, there'll be small level tiers that are cheaper, that you can just get involved with some tipping competitions and emails. Then there's stepping up to our tipping service. And then hopefully when we release tier 4, that will include syndication of horses. Now, we were unfortunate. We did make a couple of bids at the sales this week, but we weren't successful. But we'll continue to keep trying, and hopefully we'll have another horse to go alongside Sense of Worth for our racing club and syndication. As part of the tiers, we're also going to be releasing our anti-post selections. So these 5 to follow will probably, be entered up and run in decent races this year, and we want to get prices. I was lucky enough to get 8 to 1 on East India Dock for the Chester Cup, and he went and won it at 9 to 4. Now, we're always looking to get a little bit of value in these anti-post markets, and hopefully we can bring some of that to our members. As always, thank you for watching, everybody. Enjoy the weather, and let's have some more winners. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. We're fast approaching 1,500 members, and also towards 750,000 views since we got started. That puts us pretty high up when it comes to horse racing on YouTube. And yeah, we're only going to get bigger and better. So thanks guys, I'll catch you soon.